Good evening. My name is Nigel Sandy, and I'm a Community Relations Specialist for Metrolinx. I'd like to welcome everyone for joining our virtual open house for the Scarborough Subway Extension. This is our first virtual engagement of 2022, and tonight we plan to share the latest updates happening with the project. Just like our last virtual open house, this session past November, we included a call-in option to listen and ask questions. In your registration email, you received a link to join a Zoom meeting, and please raise your hand to ask your question directly to the project panel. More about that very shortly. Being born and raised in Scarborough, it is my pleasure to be the moderator for this evening's event. As moderator, it's my job to keep the event on time, to ensure your questions are answered as best as possible, and to make sure as many questions are answered as possible. I want to thank you again for your interest in joining us this evening. An important note, this event is being closed captioned. To use the feature, enable it on your video player. Let us take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers and immigrants in this generation or generations past. Metrolinx declares its commitment to building meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the historic and continued impacts of colonialization and the need to work towards meaningful reconciliation with the original caretakers of this land. We acknowledge that Metrolinx operates on lands covered by 20 treaties and that we have a responsibility to recognize and value the rights of Indigenous nations and peoples and conduct business in a manner that is built on the foundation of trust, respect, and collaboration. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview of our agenda for this evening's event. We're going to start off with a safety moment, followed with an introduction to our panel, and then we will slide into our presentation. And the presentation will go over the project overview, the latest updates happening with our construction, and then we're going to showcase some station location overhead visuals and also some of our station design approach that we take with building our stations. Lastly, with a Q&A session for everyone to ask their questions. But before we continue with the content for tonight's event, I did want to set some house rules for this evening's session. So tonight's session will be focused on the Scarborough Subway Extension, and we acknowledge that Metrolinx has many transit projects under construction and other potential projects going through the assessment phase. To ensure any unrelated questions receive an answer, our Contact Us slide near the end will provide a few ways to contact the SSC Community Relations team, and from there we will forward your feedback to the applicable department. We plan to host this evening's event for an hour, and it has been designed to allow for as many opportunities for questions and feedback as possible. As you'll see, there is a mechanism for you to type in a question, which allows other participants to vote for a question. As great minds think alike, we often see repetition in questions. To avoid reading and answering questions repeatedly, I'm going to ask that you please scroll through the existing questions and see if there is a question that covers your area of interest. And if that is the case, please vote it up. During the Q&A period, we will begin by spending the first portion answering the submitted written questions, and then we will spend another portion answering call-in questions from the Zoom link you received by email. Please note that written questions will be answered based on votes, while call-in questions will be taken on a first-come, first-come basis. We aim to keep each question and subsequent answer to 3 minutes, allowing for as many questions as possible. And again, if you've just joined us, this event is being closed captioned. To use this feature, enable it on your video player. For tonight's safety moment, we thought that this one was fitting with spring approaching, and the last few days we did have some double-digit temperatures. I know it doesn't seem that way in Scarborough. We just had some fresh snow, but with health restrictions being modified, it's setting up the right setting for folks to enjoy the outdoors again. With that being said, it is going to be a transitional period for motorists and pedestrians with increased road traffic and truck traffic, specifically from our construction. With that being said, having fun is what we suggest for our safety moment, but be mindful. Remember to look both ways at intersections and be safe. I would now like to introduce our panel. Starting at the middle of the screen, we do have our Manager of Community Engagement, Georgina Collymore. She will be supporting us with moderation from the Zoom room, taking your live questions. Joining us on the panel for the first time, we do have some new folks. We have Ade Bodunran. He is a design review specialist from Metrolinx. Victoria Superina is our station's project manager on the Scarborough Subway Extension. Joining us from our construction partner, Strawback, he's the manager of Headwalls, and that's Andre Batala. Another member from our Scarborough Subway Extension project team, we have Justin G. He's our manager of stations. A couple of folks that are familiar faces who have been members on our panel. We have Ross Bain. He's our senior project manager on the construction side. And we also have Jenny Matharo, who is our project sponsor on this program. So with that being said, Jenny, I'm going to flip it to you to take us through our project overview.
Excellent. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you, everybody, for making the time this evening. So I'm going to just go on to the next slide. Great, Daniel. Thank you. Okay, so this should be familiar. The Scarborough Subway Extension will be providing seamless travel between Scarborough and the downtown core. It will improve access, transit access for area residents, reduce daily travel times for commuters, and also create job opportunities. The extension is 3 subway stations, in which with each subway station, there will also be a bus terminal. Bus terminals are a critical part of the SSE extension. There will be a new station at Lawrence and McCowan, one at Scarborough Centre, and another one at Shepherd and McCowan. Integrated connections are really important, and this extension is going to have great connections at Scarborough Centre for the Durham Rapid Transit, as well as GO is going to be operating out of there, as well as TTC. There's going to be connections at Kennedy Station with the GO rail line, the Stouffville corridor connection exists there. There's also going to be future connections to the Eglinton Crosstown at Kennedy Station as well. The overall length of the project is 7.8 kilometers, and we do anticipate 105,000 daily boardings. The project is anticipated to be complete in 2029-2030 and at a cost of about $5.5 billion. We can move to the next slide. So this is an important slide. This slide is really showing that the Scarborough Subway Extension is going to be delivered by 2 contracts. This was a deliberate sort of strategy that Metrolinx took to ensure deliverability by 2030. The first contract is our advanced tunnel contract, and this is actually live and it's under construction. And if you've driven by the Shepherd and McCowan area, you'll see that there's a lot of construction activity underway, and the construction team's going to talk about that in just a little bit. So Strawbag is our constructor. I did mention the length of the project, and we do anticipate the tunnel completion by 2024. The second contract is the station's rail and systems contract, and that's the remainder of the work. So it's really the design and build of the 3 stations, as well as ancillary buildings, which are emergency exit buildings, traction power substations, so all the supporting infrastructure that you need to really operate the line. As I mentioned, well, I didn't mention actually, a key milestone that was reached is that we issued the request for proposal just recently, and we issued it to 3 teams, which we're very excited about. The 3 teams are listed here: Dragados, KSX Integrated Design Builders, and Scarborough Transit Connect. We're actually looking to deliver the station's rail and systems contract through a progressive design build model, which is a little bit different, and it's the first time we're doing it for transit here in Ontario. It's a key milestone for us, and a progressive design build delivery model is more of a collaborative model where we're working a little bit more closely with our development partner. And so with that, we're hoping to wrap that up in the fall and bring our development partner on board, and at which point we're going to advance the design further, and Ade's going to be talking about design guidelines later in the presentation, and so that's when we sort of start to refine a lot more of these details. And with that, I'm just going to pass it over to Andre, and I think he's going to talk about the construction updates.
Okay, hello from my side. Please to the next slide. Yes. On this slide, you can see the timeline of our project. So starting from the last year and ending in 2024, 4 main activities: launch shaft as the first one, and extraction shaft as the last one. So launch shaft, where we put our TBM inside. TBM as a short of tunnel boring machine. that travels these 7.8 kilometers and does the tunnel, and the extraction shaft that is being for extracting the TBM. So in launch shaft, we started the activities last year. We did quite a lot of work. The launch shaft should be prepared somewhere in the June for the start of TBM. And TBM is in the meantime already being assembled. It arrived to Canada last year in December. So assembly of TBM should also be ready, finished to some beginning of June this year. And then the TBM will start its drive all the way to the extraction shaft. During this drive or before this drive, we will construct the head walls, locations of future stations and emergency exit buildings. We start with the first head wall next week, and we will continue this work all through the end of 2023, next year. And the last activity, extraction shaft, where we pick up our TBM. So we started also this activity this year. We have to complete it before our TBM comes to this point. And of course, the last activity after the extraction of TBM will be site demobilization somewhere by the end of 2024. Next slide, please. As I'm head wall manager, I will be responsible mainly for head walls and the surface works. So a little bit more about head walls. Like I said, we start on the first location next week. This is Shepherd East Station. A month after that, we start on the location EEB7. Some 14 days later on Scarborough City Center. And then a month later on EEB6. This year, we also start with two EEBs, number 5 and 4, and also finish them in this year. And in this year, we also have Lawrence and EEB3 to start, but finish in the first quarter of the next year. And the last two EEBs, emergency exit buildings, we will start somewhere in the middle of the March next year and finish them, at least plan to finish them by the October next year. Next slide, please. There are quite a lot of trees along the alignment where we have our sites. So we have special tree removal program. We started with removal of trees February 15th. Most of the trees we will remove by the end of this month. There will be some little trees left to remove beginning of the next month. We are noticing all the nearby residents, and of course the trees that will stay we will protect during the construction. All our works regarding tree removal and surface works are planned to be done during the daylight time, so we at the moment do not plan any night shifts. Next slide, please. Some pictures of the works we are currently doing. So the first picture shows the LS1 site, the site where we will put inside our TBM machine. It's like you can see it from the picture, it's quite a developed stage. Also there you can see assembly of our TBM. There we have also a picture showing some signature at the launch shaft where we explain what we are doing. And there is also a picture of big machines, big rigs we use for piling. These machines that we use for piling will be used also on head walls and on extraction shaft. And you can also see the picture here with big excavation of our launch shaft. Similar excavation will be done also on the extraction shaft. And of course, we also have a picture showing our activities on an extraction shaft. It's demolition. Next slide, please. Here you can see the way of our TBM coming to Canada in December last year, Port of Oshawa, then also being unloaded there, transported in January this year to the site, and of course immediately after the transport, start of assembly end of January this year. And also, of course, you can see the TBM in the middle with an interesting name. There was a contest from the name, so Digi Stardust. That's from my side regarding the construction progress. So thank you for your attention, and please, Nigel, continue.
Okay, I think I can take it over. All right, next slide, please. Excellent. So we're very excited to be sharing the overhead visuals of our stations. The first station that's shown here is going to be at Lawrence and McCowan. The main station entrance, it's going to be on the south side of Lawrence, just west of McCowan, and it's going to be connected to the bus terminal. TTC will be servicing this bus terminal. There's also a secondary entrance that's located on the north side of Lawrence and also west of McCowan. And this is going to provide quick and efficient connections to customers wanting to access the hospital, which is immediately adjacent to the entrance. We know that the hospital is a major employer. It employs more than 2,000 people, and this connection will provide a rapid option to employees that work here. You'll also see on the plan that the station box is going to be located predominantly in the middle of the intersection. In order to construct the station and minimize traffic impacts, there is going to be a bit of a road detour. It's not currently shown on this plan here, but it is going to be the subject of a future open house. So we do want to make sure that we minimize traffic disruption as much as possible. So that is something that we've planned for. We can move on to the next slide. Okay, great. So the second station on the Scarborough Subway Extension will be located at Scarborough Centre. The primary station entrance will be at Progress and McCowan, and it will be integrated with the bus terminal that is anticipated to be a busy terminal. It will have over 20 bays. The bus terminal will be a transit hub, and it's going to be key in building an integrated transportation network as TTC, GO, DRT, and private operators are expected to operate out of this terminal. A secondary entrance will be located on the west side of McCowan Road, and the entrance is going to be developed as part of a future development. And we're working with Oxford Properties, the owner of the parcel on the west side, as well as the city to realize this entrance. So the entrance on the west side is important. It's going to bring the station closer to the existing built-up area on the west, and it's also going to provide a stronger connection to the shopping center and future developments that we know will come online in future. Okay, and I think we can move on to, an important note is that the station is going to be a busy station. And as noted here, we anticipate to have over 7,000 transfers at the busiest hour and approximately 37,000 daily transfers. We can move to the next slide. Okay, great. So this last one is at Shepherd and McCowan, and this will be the new terminus of Line 2. The main station entrance here is going to be located at the northeast corner of Shepherd and McCowan, and it will have frontages on McCowan and on Shepherd, which are the two main streets. The subway station, unlike the other two subway stations, the other two stations that I referenced earlier, it's not entirely under McCowan Road. It's actually located on the private property, and you'll see the outline of the station box. So the station entrance, the station box itself, and the bus terminal are all going to be located on the same parcel of land, and this is really to manage service integration between bus and subway. Having strong bus connections is extremely important to the SSE project. So the bus terminal here is expected to serve TTC, and it's also expected to serve the 920 DRT route that exists today. This will also be a very busy station with approximately 12,000 transfers during the busiest hour. I think with that, I will pass it on. I think that's my last slide, and I think I'm passing it on to Ade.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ade. I'm here to talk about the station design approach. Next slide, please. So this right here, the station design is be heavily based off of DS09 for all the public-facing elements. What you see on the screen right now is what we call our journey map. This is kind of the backbone to the whole standards. When you think about it, it's to do with the beginning part to the left is we're more concerned about the whole journey of you as a customer. So when you decide to take a subway line or decide to take your transit, is to the left, and as you move forward, you get to the station, which is the green part, and then when you're at the station, it's from the blue, the purple, to the orange, to the light blue, and then when you get to your destination or your next connection. So the DS09 will act as a backbone, and this is our backbone to that document. Next slide, please. Passenger-focused design. So when we talk about passenger-focused design, it's good to understand that underneath all the engineering, the standard technical requirements, underlying systems that run the transit line, the stations are designed for you, the user, and it's use the user and also the surrounding community. Design of the station will focus on ensuring that you have a seamless, intuitive, and reliable station and station connections. The stations are designed to last with material choices that are robust and long-lasting. The station will be designed and planned to make your intermodal connections seamless, regardless of what your next mode of transportation will be. Future growth will be at the forefront of our minds as we guide the development of these stations. This will include space-proofing for strategically placed knockout panels. This protects our future growth and it helps keep the station running. In regard to maintenance, the choice of materials is important. That's why our standards promote a robust material selection. This directly feeds into making the maintenance of the station safer, easier, and which will also lead to a more reliable transit system. Next slide, please. Passenger focus and safety and accessibility. Stations will be designed to be safe and transit users, regardless of the cost. We'll do this architecturally by trying to minimize the vertical and horizontal connections and try to make these connections as short and as direct as possible. We'll have waiting areas, rest areas, multiple elevator paths to the platform, back or wards, designated waiting areas with redundancy where needed. Next slide, please. Passenger flows in the public realm. Transit infrastructure is a key part of the public realm. Subway stations act as a major piece of infrastructure in the city. Stations act as a backdrop to our lives. The station acts as a gateway to the city and brings the rest of the city to the neighborhood. These stations will be iconic in the sense they will act as a landmark for the neighborhood. That is why the public space is so important. It is that interstitial space that connects the station to the community. We recognize that these spaces provide landscape features, hard paving, seating areas, and these will act as a bridge between the street and the entrance. Next slide, please. Passenger-focused design and intuitive wayfinding. When we talk about wayfinding, it's not only about signage, which we have robust standards for. It's about making sure that we create an environment that allows all users to use the system regardless of their familiarity with the station. And it's about knowing where to go and how to get there as seamlessly and as intuitively as possible. It's not also about what's on the inside. It's about making the stations recognizable and as a recognizable symbol in the community. Regardless of the site context, there'll be elements that are similar enough that make the station recognizable as a station. This will include landscaping, street furniture, entrance canopy, signage, and the way that we approach the interior finishes. Next slide, I think that's it for me.
With regard to next steps, this is really just the first phase in our public engagement process. We're going to have many more opportunities to have public engagement in the design. This will include examples like conducting surveys, about specific design elements and also having future open houses. As mentioned earlier, our development partner will be coming on board this fall. With our procurement model, we will have a very collaborative design process. So this actually makes it easier to have public engagement than with other development models. Next slide.
To the project team, thank you, Jenny, Ade, Victoria, and Andre for going through the content to discuss with everyone this evening. This slide is really important, and I want everyone to pay attention, especially for some folks that see ongoing projects happening in Scarborough as a region as a whole, and they may have some questions that are not related to what's happening on the Scarborough Subway Extension. So our promise is to be a connection to support you with getting all of your questions and concerns answered. Our project email address is Scarborough Subway Extension at Metrolinx.com, and we also have our project number there, which is available 24/7 for you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And that is the end of our presentation for this evening's event. We can run through our question and answer period now. Next slide, please. So the first question, and I think I'm going to take this one, the first question from our pre-submitted questions is, what will the final station names be? So the slides that our project sponsor, Jenny, went through, we did have some titles on the slide, and the reason for that was just to help folks get an understanding of where these stations are located. Those are actually not the final and official names, and Metrolinx does have a policy when it comes to naming stations. So what we tend to do is start with the simplest name possible, usually the name of a cross street. And if that name is already taken, then we go through some of our landmarks or some of the local community locations that can help with wayfinding for folks in the community. And as Victoria was mentioning, this is essentially the first step in our process to engage with the community about stations. So as there are more opportunities to have feedback on proposed names and the station elements that will be included, we will be engaging with the community to continue that process. The second question, will the Scarborough Subway Extension feature platform screen doors to protect riders? So I think I want to throw this one to Justin, because Justin hasn't spoken yet, just to say hello to everyone, and maybe we can tag in Victoria if needed.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So we're actually designing the stations in a way to incorporate platform edge doors in the future. There are no immediate plans right now. We're actually just designing in a way to protect them in the for installation in the future. Victoria, did you want to add anything, or I think that's pretty much
good.
it, right?
We're planning.
Thank you for that, Justin. So the next question from the pre-submitted questions that we received, what specific design actions have the project team taken to provide an interchange with an extension of the proposed Shepherd Subway? So I think I'm going to start maybe with Victoria this time, and then you can tag in Justin to add in anything you might have missed. I think, Victoria, you're on mute.
I'm having trouble with my mouse. We have knockout panels on the concourse level that will lead to various facilities, including the new Shepherd, possible Shepherd connection. Okay.
So we will jump to the next question if there's nothing to add on that one. And I think this one is coming to you, Jenny. Will there be a tunnel to connect the new Scarborough station, or the station at Scarborough Center, and the shopping center at Scarborough Town Center?
Thanks, Nigel. So I think I alluded to this a little bit when I was speaking about the Scarborough Centre Station. We are working collaboratively with the city and with Oxford Properties to realize an entrance on the west side of McCowan. So in order for this to happen, there will need to be a tunnel connecting the subway station, which is in the right of way, to the actual property and up to the street level. In terms of an actual connection all the way from this subway station to the shopping centre, that is not part of the project scope. But we're working, as I mentioned, closely with the city and with Oxford Properties to ensure strong connections in the area and making sure there are strong connections to the station.
Perfect. Thank you for reinforcing that message again, Jenny, just in case there were folks on the call that missed your first explanation. So our next question, what steps are taken to ensure the Scarborough Subway Extension will open in 2029-2030? So Ross, I might lean on you being our lead on the construction side for tunneling, just to give folks a quick snippet of what the day in the life of Ross Bain looks like and how we collaborate with our construction partner to maintain our schedule.
That's a setup I've never heard one. Thanks, Nigel, and hello, everyone. I have not spoken today. I'm Ross. I'm a senior project manager with our construction team. I think that the best way to answer that question is to just say we're out there, we're working, we are in action. There are boots on the ground. We've dug a 30-meter deep hole just north of Shepherd and McCowan, and the work is happening. So our first of the major contracts that Jenny described, we call it the advanced tunnel. We have started, and we are on track to complete in 2024. The work that Andre went through is well underway. And one thing I was going to mention earlier, just after Andre spoke about what they have been doing, they being the contractor, is in the next weeks, you are going to see us, but work start to happen outside of what has been the sole work area. Yes, we have been doing some utility relocations. We have been doing some tree removals. We've been doing some advanced survey work. But in the coming weeks and months, we're going to be starting our first headwall constructions. So it's going to start to look and feel like a full tunnel or subway project, a full extension from Kennedy very soon. It's not just going to be a small job site at the corner of McCowan and Shepherd. So that's one thing. The tunnel is obviously just the first part of it. The second part is what Jenny, Victoria, Justin have talked about, and that is the next phase for the station rail systems contract. That contract is moving forward on time in terms of a procurement. So the step of selecting the identifying the three teams that are going to put in competitive prices to do this project, that phase of the contract is well underway. So again, the biggest answer to that question, or the simplest answer, is we're moving forward. This isn't a project that's just being talked about. It's a project that is in action.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Ross. And the audio might have been a bit muffled, so just to emphasize what Ross was saying, he essentially, the project team is working every day. We're on the project sites, we're on the construction sites, we're working to ensure that this project is happening, and every day there is progress being made. Now, as a part of the project team doing their due diligence, their collaborative meetings that we have on a daily basis. Multiple meetings on a daily basis to address anything that could potentially disrupt putting our project in place by our targeted deadline. So Ross, again, thank you for that. The next question, Jenny, I think we're coming to you again. I'm going to pass you the mic. The next question is there any provision for a future GO station near the Shepherd station? And just to clarify for folks, I know that's not the official name of the station, but we're talking about the station that will be located at our Longshast site, which is at McCowan and Shepherd. So Jenny.
So the direct answer is no. There isn't a connection as part of the GO sort of network at at Shepherd and McCowan Station. But there is the Agent Court GO station is located about 1 kilometer to the west, to the west of the intersection, and we do have close connections with the GO station along the Stouffville corridor at Kennedy. So those are the two connections there.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Jenny. And just to clarify for folks that may use, public transit within the Scarborough region, as our work is completed and we enable some of the features at Kennedy, you're going to have a better experience to connect with the Stouffville line from Kennedy Station. And then, for the folks who live in the community near McCowan and Shepherd, as Jenny mentioned, Agent Court GO station is not far from our subway station that will be built at McCowan and Shepherd. So we have a next question here. Jenny, I think you got the hot hand right now. I'm going to come back to you. So the next question is, what impacts are expected at the Don Montgomery Community Center?
So the Don Montgomery Community Center is located immediately adjacent to Kennedy Station, and it's been a busy area. There will be impacts to the north lot there. We will be constructing, and again, we'll be providing more details as more details are available to share, and we'll have a bit of a presentation on traffic impacts, and this is going to be, we're going to get into details about this one. But there will be parking loss at the Don Montgomery Community Center for a period of about 4 years. And so we are working with the City of Toronto right now, as well as facility users of the Don Montgomery Center, and we'll be reaching out to the community at large to talk about the construction impacts as well as solutions to mitigate. And so that's the current status. A little bit more detail is that currently there are there is an existing tail track that exists underneath that north parking lot, and in order to connect the extension between Kennedy Station and where the extraction shaft is at Kennedy and Eglinton and Midland, there needs to be excavation in that area. So that's the reason why the north lot of the community center is going to be impacted for a period of about 4 years, 4 to 5 years.
Thank you, Jenny. And there will be some impacts, and we plan to, first start with consulting some of the permit holders, some of the stakeholders that use the facility on a more frequent basis. And from there, we plan to engage with some of the greater community to get their thoughts on some of the plans around that area. So there's more to come in the next coming, weeks and months as we put together our plan to talk about what the next steps are for that community. We're going to make a quick, change and jump to the Zoom room to have a question from the Zoom room. Gina, are you ready from the Zoom room?
Hi, Nigel. Yes, I am. Our next question is from Sarah Vannon. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can ask your question live.
Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess my question is related to some of the presentation materials that have been shown. So we have total ridership numbers for Scarborough Center, and I think it was 37,000. But so a sub-question for that is that based off of the future development around Scarborough Center, or is that based off of the numbers predicted as of right now? And then building on that, are there any plans for transit-oriented development with these 3 subway stations? I understand that potential around Lawrence might be limited, but to justify the scale of investment that's coming to Scarborough with the money put in here, I think you really need transit-oriented development at all 3 stations, and I don't really see that being communicated again, and that's a bit concerning to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Daniel, if you could do us a favor and put back the slide that shows the overhead visual of Scarborough Center, just to see the statistic that was referenced. To start with this conversation, and I'll throw it to the project team afterwards, there are some ongoing conversations about when there will be more announcements about what transit-oriented communities look like. But for now, because that process is still under development, we don't have much information to share. So I am going to ask, we appreciate the enthusiasm and, giving us a reality of what's required, at certain locations in Scarborough. But once we are able to, communicate and talk about some of these things in more detail, we will have, more discussion and an open dialogue about what's related to that in the future. I'm not sure if anyone else on the project team wanted to add to that. And I think I did miss one portion of your question. It was a two-phase question. Talking about the statistics, I believe those statistics are targeted towards what it's going to look like when the station is actually in service. So I don't think those are current figures for what is happening today. And someone please correct me if I'm wrong. Hey, Jenny.
I can chime in and help. So yes, the ridership it's forecasted out, so it's not current. And so our planning team does work very closely with the city and look at the sort of the 2041 the growth plan figures, and so that's accounted for, but they're also looking at what's actually happening in terms of development applications and trends to ensure that it's current, and they have sort of accounted for the current census data as well. And I know that there's going to be updated analysis for Scarborough. Currently we have a preliminary design business case, and those numbers, these are the numbers that are reflected there. And so we will have a full business case, and as part of the full business case, there will be updated ridership numbers as well. So I hope that answers that piece of it. With respect to transit-oriented communities, we all know that with transit, development is often spurred, as well as other sort of benefits that come with that. And so absolutely, we know that there will be future development in the area, transit-oriented development. Right now, Metrolinx is really just focused on the transit aspect of it, and so that's what we're really here to talk about today.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. So at the moment, we don't have any additional questions from the Zoom room, but if folks have questions, please let us know, and Gina will give us a prompt so we can jump back to the Zoom room. But I'm going to get back to our pre-submitted questions, and the next one we have, we probably covered this with the material that we shared, but it was asking us, where will the Lawrence subway station be built? So Daniel, if you want to do us a favor and just jump back to that overhead visual for Lawrence Station. And maybe Justin, you can just give us a quick heads up, or I guess explanation. I know it's pretty self-explanatory with the map, but if you just want to explain where that Lawrence subway station is going to be located.
Yep, thanks, Nigel. So Jenny actually touched on this briefly before. The main station entrance will be on the southwest corner of Lawrence and McCowan. It'll be incorporated with the bus terminal that'll be serving there. And there's also going to be a secondary entrance off the northwest corner of Lawrence and McCowan, very close to the existing hospital there.
Thank you. The next question we have is how does Metrolinx and the City of Toronto minimize impact on local businesses? So I'm going to start with a bit of an explanation, and then I'll probably lean to my project team to add some more context. So when it comes to the impact that we're going to be putting on our communities and on businesses, what I will say, one of the main differences from this project versus some of the other projects, or the main project that folks in Scarborough relate to with the Eglinton Crosstown, is that most of our activity is happening underground. So the types of support, the types of impacts that we will offer might differ slightly from what you see with the other projects, but what we do plan is to introduce a Shop Local campaign. We are going to collaborate with our local business, BIA, that represents the Shepherd East Village BIA, to talk about a strategy and a plan to help businesses that may be impacted. But again, with this project, seeing that our subway stations are underground, the types of impact will be slightly different. And I don't know if anyone on the team wanted to add to that. So I'll jump to the next question. The next question we have, and I'll probably jump to Victoria, will there be public washrooms at the stations?
Yes, there'll be public washrooms at Scarborough Centre Station and at Shepherd Station.
Thank you, Victoria. So looks like we got a couple questions coming from the Zoom room. So I'll jump to the Zoom room just to read them out. So one question is there any design to prevent station flooding in rainstorms? So I think I might start with Justin. Justin, you think you can handle this one? If you can help out with the start, and then maybe Victoria can add in anything that you miss.
Yeah, so all of our stations are designed to meet any applicable flooding prevention design applications. We're also actually doing a little bit of work near flooding areas or existing flooding areas, such as culvert upgrades or other methods that we're actually looking into to prevent any flooding in the station areas. I believe stations will be designed with the existing TTC guidelines and the city guidelines for, I guess, pumps to prevent water flooding in the station, as they're pretty deep. I think that pretty much covers it. I don't think we're doing anything extraordinary in our project to prevent flooding. Victoria, would you be able to add anything, or?
I'll just add that we do have, for a variety of reasons, some green roofs, and that also helps with the stormwater management, but we're doing it for a variety of reasons. Thanks.
Justin, Victoria, thank you for that. A next question that we received, and this kind of ties into the explanation I provided just to set some ground rules for what we plan to cover based on the panelists that we have at this evening's event. So most of our project panel, they are supporting the Scarborough Subway Extension, but this next question asks, will a barrier wall run along the Treverton Park neighborhood? So we did a little bit of research just to answer this question because we knew it was a concern in the community. But at this time, our team is not aware of any plans to construct a noise wall near the Treverton Park community. As that area backs onto the Stouffville corridor, what we will do is connect with our colleagues that support Go Expansion work from the Toronto East team. And if you did want to forward that question directly to them, their email is torontoeast@metrolinx.com, and they should be able to provide more of an explanation regarding some of the Go Expansion projects happening throughout the region. So it looks like there are a couple more questions in the Zoom room. I'm going to jump back to the Zoom room. Gina, are you ready?
Hey, yes, I'm ready for you. Our first question that we've got is from Sarah. Sarah, I'm going to ask that you unmute yourself so that you can ask your question live.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes. So my name is Sarah Gonza. I'm from Toronto Community Benefits Network. I have two questions. And one is, will the 10% minimum equity hiring target that the government announced apply to the tunneling contract? And then the second one is, how will community engagement on community benefits agreements, or how will the community engagement be on the community benefits agreement for the Scarborough project? Yeah, so those are the questions.
Thank you for your questions, Sarah. Jenny, did you want to start with the response to talk about this? I know our tunneling contract does include some apprenticeship requirements, that helps us with, providing folks in the community that need opportunities, that want opportunities, they're looking for opportunities to be a part of the construction work. But I don't believe that we have specific diversity targets to identify specific groups that should take priority in receiving some of these community benefits in terms of employments on the project. We do plan, to have further conversations and talks with a lot of the community groups. I've already started to speak with some of the community groups that have expressed some of their, interest in community benefits on the project and how we can ensure some of the local residents are actually benefiting from the construction activity and the benefits that come out of it with employment. Jenny, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, just in general that we know that transit is a catalyst for community development and growth, and we know, and we do want to engage with community leaders to better understand ways that, you know, just around community benefits as a whole, like how we can give back to the communities that we serve. So we are working actively with our community and municipal and provincial ministerial partners to do this. We're working directly with the Ministry of Labour and Ministry of Infrastructure to further these discussions around the jobs aspect of it, around sort of the affordability, the hiring, the equity aspect. So don't have exact answers in terms of targets, percentages, and so forth, but this is a live conversation that we are having with our partners across at the municipal level as well as the provincial level.
Thank you for that. And Jenny, I'll just add to your point about our, collaboration with the Ministry of Labor. This is very key, right? Because for us, Metrolinx, we have set a lot of emphasis on the actual building of the infrastructure that's related to these projects that we're doing, and to have the right support to ensure that the right people are involved and given the opportunity to participate. The Ministry of Labor will work with the different groups in the community to have these opportunities available and ensure that there are ways that they can be involved. But there is more to come on that as we, start this process of collaborating with the Ministry of Labor, because the training piece is a big portion. There are opportunities in construction, but there are folks in the community that don't have some of the actual skills that some of the employers are looking for. So that is a segue for us to get them the training that they need to be a part of construction activity going forward. Gina, is there any other questions from the Zoom room?
Yeah, we do have a few more. So next up, I have Natasha. Natasha, I'll unmute you so that you can ask your question live.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Natasha with the Scarborough Business Association. Just wanted to know, for the station by Scarborough Town Center at Progress, I'm wondering if you're going to have a similar sort of business hub like what you see at Union Station. So you have Uncle Tetsu's Japanese cheesecakes. You have like different restaurants. So I'm wondering if there's a way to sort of integrate something like that at that station, if space allows, to maybe showcase local Scarborough businesses.
Thank you for that question, Natasha. I think I might lean on Justin, who might have an idea of what the station components are looking like, just to say if there is potentially an opportunity to incorporate something like that.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. Right now, we don't have concrete plans for any retail within the stations, but we have plans to. I think Jenny touched on this a little bit briefly. There's going to be a potential connection to the west side, to development in the west, and also the surrounding development that could be happening around the station will have some retail that will be very close to the station itself. I don't think we're going to have something like Union Station directly, but there will be some potential opportunities for businesses to be very close to the station itself. Thanks.
Thank you, Justin. And thank you for your question, Natasha. Gina, is there anything else from the Zoom room?
Yeah, I do. I got two more. So next up is a question from Kono. So I'll ask that you unmute yourself, or there we go. I can unmute you. You can ask your question live.
Hi. When you were answering questions about the transit links at Shepherd's Station, it was a bit vague as to what kind of link that's going to be. I know there's been talk of having an LRT there or a subway extension on the Shepherd Subway. Any idea what we're looking at, or is it just up in the air right now?
Thank you for your question. I think I'll start, and then maybe Jenny, You can help me out with anything that I might miss. But when it comes to how Metrolinx looks at transit as a whole, there are a lot of planning that is taking place on the back end, and sometimes with where we are in the planning process, there aren't any formal announcements to say that this is a funded project that will be happening. So what I will say is that there are ongoing discussions to discuss how we can connect the entire region, and hopefully that Shepherd project is one that can be a part of connecting the entire region. But at the moment, there isn't any formal announcement, so that's why the conversation is a bit vague in terms of what the next steps could potentially be on that project. Jenny, is there anything else you might want to add to that?
No, I think that's really it, right? We have, as part of the transit sort of network map, there is like a dotted line showing a Shepherd West extension. There's also plans for EELRT that the city is driving. And so, Metrolinx, like looking at how to integrate the network as a whole, like we have a view to that, and we're always trying to make sure that we protect for the ability to not preclude any sort of transit connections, because we want seamless travel is so important. So at Shepherd and McCowan, the team has specifically protected for knockout panels, not knowing if it's going to be a subway that's below grade connecting in, and if it's a not grade connection, we're also having a view to that as well. So so I think that Nigel really did summarize it. I just hope I rounded it out a little bit.
No, that was perfect, and you hit on a key point. Even though there isn't any, confirmed funding announced, we are trying to preserve opportunities for those connections to exist in the region. So definitely more to come, and as soon as we have any official announcements to share, we will be, providing that information to the community. Gina, did you want to jump to the next question from the Zoom room?
Yeah, thank you. So our next question is from Tristan, and I will ask it live. His question is, what is the walking distance between the subway platform and the bus terminal at each station? I personally don't like the one at Science Center in Mount Dennis. They required such a long walk, which significantly increases transfer time. So the question, what is the walking distance between the subway platform and the bus terminal at each station? So I know this is a very specific question. Perhaps Justin or Victoria, perhaps Justin, you can probably maybe take a stab at it and see. But if not, we can definitely answer and provide an answer to you after if we don't have the exact distance.
Yeah, thanks, Georgina. I think I may need Victoria's help on this. I don't know the exact the figure from the distance from the platform to the bus terminal or the entrance. But actually, I think I mentioned this before, but we're trying to minimize vertical and horizontal connections as much as possible. I'm not sure if there's any guidelines for any maximum distance. But Victoria, maybe could you chime in a little bit?
I'm going to jump in and just remind everybody that we don't have final designs at this point. When our development partner comes on board in the fall, we're going to work really hard with them to perfect the designs and get the best design. It's understandable that we have large bus terminals, but everything about our design process is based on making a seamless connection and minimizing the distances, both with the vertical circulation and the walking distances. But there's no specific number at this point because our final designs are just not there yet. And that's something that we really do look at and try to optimize. And it will be a challenge because we're dealing with quite large stations. But that's one of our key goals, is to have a very seamless transition.
I can just, Nigel, just to kind of round that out, like Victoria just nailed it. But I think I said it off the top that transfers from buses to the subway station is so important for us because we know that a lot of our riders arrive to our stations on buses. And so we're going to work very hard on that. And the travel time savings for our customers it's the key benefit. So we're going to work really hard to make sure that what's happened, the experience at Science Center doesn't repeat itself here. And so this is great feedback hearing from the community. Thank you.
That is actually great feedback for the team to take into consideration. Thank you. We are kind of running at time, but we did want to make sure we had at least the last question answered from the Zoom room. So Gina, can we flip to the last question from the Zoom room?
Yeah, sure. So the next question, our last question is from Amit, and his question, are there any post-secondary internship opportunities for students to help out, paid or unpaid? And if so, any that take place this summer, and how can we find out more about them? So I will answer this question because it's kind of timely, because the team, our HR team, released today a bunch of summer job opportunities for students. So there's a variety of them at Metrolinx, from everywhere from our capital team to our legal team, our maintenance team. There are a variety of roles available, and if you just go to metrolinx.com and go to our career section, you can see all the different summer student roles that are available for students this summer. And that was our last question from the Zoom room. Thank you, Nigel. I'll kick it back over to you.
Gina, thank you. Thank you. So everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. We will provide answers to all the questions that we didn't get an opportunity to answer on the website in the upcoming days. And just as a reminder, if you haven't already, just to stay on top of the latest updates with the project, please sign up for the Scarborough Subway Extension newsletter to stay informed. And with that being said, I wish you all a good night and take care until the next time.